In the comments below, it was a crisp autumn morning, the kind that made the world feel fresh and alive, filled with the scent of falling leaves and the promise of change. Emily sat at her kitchen table, the sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating her neatly arranged breakfast. A steaming cup of coffee rested in front of her, and she flipped through the pages of her favorite magazine. Life had settled into a predictable rhythm since she married Mark. They had built a beautiful home together, filled with laughter and warmth. But lately, something felt missing. As she glanced at the family photos lining the walls, she couldn't help but smile at the memories they held. Mark was a devoted husband, always supportive of her dreams and ambitions. Yet beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect life, Emily felt a twinge of restlessness. She remembered the wild, carefree days of her youth, the excitement of new experiences, and the thrill of being in love. Just as Emily was lost in thought, her phone buzzed on the table, jolting her back to reality. It was a text notification from an unknown number. Curious, she opened it to find a simple message. "I'm back in town, can we meet?" Her heart raced as she recognized the sender, Jake. Her ex-husband. They had shared a passionate relationship during their early 20s, filled with youthful exuberance and dreams of a future together. However, life took them on different paths. And after 3 years of marriage, they had parted ways, each seeking their own journey. That chapter of her life felt like a distant memory, yet the emotions it evoked were still raw. Emily hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Part of her wanted to ignore the message, to keep her life intact and avoid any complications. But another part of her was intrigued. She hadn't seen Jake in years, and the thought of reconnecting stirred something deep inside her. A mix of nostalgia and curiosity. After much deliberation, Emily finally replied, agreeing to meet Jake at a local cafe that evening. As she prepared for the encounter, she felt a whirlwind of emotions. Would it be awkward? Would they still have the same chemistry? With each passing hour, her anticipation grew. When Emily arrived at the cafe, she spotted Jake sitting at a corner table, looking remarkably unchanged. He had a confident air about him, his dark hair slightly tousled, and a familiar grin that sent a rush of memories flooding back. As she approached, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Emily," he said, standing to greet her. The warmth in his voice wrapped around her like a blanket, and she felt a flutter in her chest. "Jake," she replied, forcing a smile as they embraced. The hug felt natural, as if no time had passed at all. They settled into their seats and the conversation flowed easily, laughter punctuating their exchanges. They reminisced about their shared past, the adventures they had embarked on, and the dreams they once held. As the evening wore on, Emily felt a spark reignite between them. It was intoxicating the way Jake listened to her, how he seemed genuinely interested in her life. They talked about their careers, their struggles, and their triumphs. Emily shared her passion for her art, and Jake spoke about his travels and experiences. The chemistry was palpable, and Emily found herself lost in the moment, forgetting about the life she had built with Mark. But as the night drew to a close, reality began to seep back in. She thought of Mark waiting for her at home, the man who had stood by her through thick and thin. Guilt washed over her like a cold wave. She knew she had to be careful. This was just a friendly meeting, right? Yet as they stood to say goodbye, Jake leaned in, brushing his lips against her cheek. The warmth of his breath sent shivers down her spine, igniting a fire she thought had long been extinguished. "Let's not wait so long to do this again," he said softly, and Emily could only nod, her heart racing. The days that followed the reunion with Jake were a blur of emotions. Emily found herself daydreaming at work, her thoughts often drifting back to their conversation. With each passing moment, the guilt of her betrayal towards Mark weighed heavily on her conscience. She loved Mark, but the thrill of her connection with Jake made her question everything. Each evening, she would return home to the warmth of Mark's embrace, his loving gestures reminding her of the life they had built together. But as they sat on the couch watching their favorite shows, her mind would wander, and she would find herself wishing for the excitement that Jake brought into her life. Unable to resist the pull, Emily agreed to meet Jake again and again. Their encounters became more frequent, each one igniting a passion she hadn't felt in years. They would laugh, reminisce, and share secrets that were never meant to be shared. Secrets that slowly began to erode the boundaries of her heart. Emily knew she was treading dangerous waters, but each meeting felt like a lifeline to the person she used to be. Jake made her feel alive, vibrant, and desired. As they explored the city together, she felt like a carefree girl again, unburdened by the responsibilities of adulthood. The thrill of sneaking away from her life made every moment with Jake feel infinitely more precious. One evening, after an exhilarating day spent together, Jake took Emily to a rooftop bar overlooking the city. The skyline glittered like 1,000 stars, and the atmosphere was electric. As they shared a bottle of wine, Jake leaned in closer, his eyes dark with intensity. "Emily, I can't pretend anymore. I want you back in my life," he confessed, his voice low and urgent. The words sent a jolt through her, igniting a conflict within her. She felt drawn to him, the spark between them undeniable. Yet the weight of her marriage to Mark loomed large. "Jake, I can't, I'm married," she stammered, her heart racing as she struggled with her feelings. "I know, but what we had was real." "Can't you feel it?" He pressed his gaze, piercing through her defenses. In that moment, Emily felt the ground beneath her shift. She was caught between two worlds: the stability of her life with Mark, and the intoxicating allure of the past with Jake. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's internal struggle grew more intense. The thrill of her secret life was exhilarating, but the guilt was suffocating. Mark had begun to notice her distance, often asking if she was okay. Each time she would brush it off, forcing a smile and assuring him she was just busy. But the truth was, she was torn. She loved Mark, but the connection she had rediscovered with Jake was potent and intoxicating. It felt like a drug, and she was spiraling deeper into its grasp. One fateful night, after a heated argument with Mark about her apparent lack of focus, Emily found herself in Jake's arms. They kissed passionately, the world around them fading away. In that moment, she made a choice. She would embrace the thrill and passion Jake offered, even if it meant risking everything. But as she pulled away, the reality of her actions hit her like a cold wave. Was she really prepared to sacrifice her marriage for a fleeting sense of adventure? Emily stood in the soft glow of the streetlight, the chill of the night air wrapping around her. As she pulled away from Jake, the kiss still lingered on her lips, a mix of exhilaration and dread flooding her senses. She felt alive, yet an overwhelming sense of guilt washed over her. What had she just done? She had crossed a line that she could not uncross, and the weight of her actions pressed heavily on her chest. As she drove home, the silence of the car felt deafening. Her heart raced as she replayed the events of the evening in her mind. How would she let it get this far? She had always prided herself on being loyal, yet here she was tangled in a web of deceit. Mark was waiting for her at home, completely unaware of the turmoil brewing within her. When she finally stepped through the door, the familiar scent of home enveloped her. Mark was in the living room, half watching a game on TV. He looked up as she entered, a smile breaking across his face. "Hey, you. How was your evening?" "Just went out for a walk," Emily lied, forcing a smile as she took off her coat. The weight of that lie felt heavy on her shoulders, but she needed time to sort out her feelings. "Did you clear your head?" Mark asked, his eyes filled with concern. "Yeah, I think so," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They settled into a comfortable silence, but inside, Emily felt like a stranger in her own home. The warmth of their life together seemed to dim as she wrestled with her choices. Days turned into a blur of contradictions. Emily went through the motions of her daily life, trying to maintain her facade. She would laugh with Mark, share meals, and even go for their routine weekend hikes. But her mind was elsewhere, caught in a tempest of emotions. Every moment spent with Mark felt like a reminder of what she was jeopardizing. Meanwhile, her meetings with Jake became more charged. Each encounter was a roller coaster of passion and nostalgia, igniting feelings she thought were lost to time. Yet with every rendezvous, the guilt gnawed at her, threatening to unravel the fabric of her life. She started to question her choices more than ever. Was she chasing a fleeting thrill, or was there something deeper pulling her toward Jake? One evening, after a particularly emotional day, Emily found herself texting Jake. They agreed to meet at a secluded park, a place where they could talk freely without the prying eyes of the world. As she drove, her heart raced with anticipation and anxiety. This meeting felt different, like a turning point. Under the soft glow of the park's lights, she spotted Jake sitting on a bench, his silhouette framed by the trees. As she approached, he stood up, concern etched on his face. "Emily, are you okay?" he asked, his voice laced with urgency. "I don't know, Jake," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I can't keep doing this. It's tearing me apart." Jake stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "I understand that this is complicated, but what we have is real. You can't deny that," he said, reaching for her hand. "I know," she whispered, but the words felt heavy. "But I love Mark. He's done nothing wrong. I can't hurt him like this." "Then why are you here?" Jake pressed, his tone softening. "You know that what we have is special. It doesn't have to end." Emily took a step back, pulling her hand away. "I need to figure things out. I can't keep living in two worlds. It isn't fair to either of you." Jake's expression faltered, and for a moment she saw the hurt behind his eyes. "I don't want to lose you, Emily." "I still care about you," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. Tears sprang to her eyes as she faced him. I care about you too. But I have a life now. I can't just walk away from everything I've built. I owe it to Mark to be honest with him. Returning home that night, Emily felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She could no longer live in the shadows of her decisions. The thrill of her connection with Jake was intoxicating. But the love she had for Mark was rooted in reality and commitment. Sitting on the edge of her bed, she took a deep breath and picked up her phone. She hesitated before dialing Mark's number, feeling the weight of the conversation ahead. When he answered, his voice was warm and inviting. But it only made her heart ache more. Hey, everything okay? He asked, concern lacing his tone. I need to talk to you, she replied. Her voice trembling. Can you come home early tonight? Of course, I'll be there in a bit, Mark said, and she could hear the shift in his tone. His worry was palpable as the clock ticked away. Emily felt a mixture of dread and resolve. She knew that honesty was the only way forward. When Mark finally walked through the door, his presence filled the room with a sense of comfort. But it also amplified her anxiety. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table. The silence stretching between them. Emily could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She took a deep breath, summoning the courage to speak. Mark, there's something I need to tell you. She began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I've been feeling lost lately, and I met someone from my past. Mark's expression shifted. Confusion mingled with concern. What do you mean, who? It's Jake, she confessed. Her heart pounding. We've been seeing each other, and I lied to you about it. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and she braced herself for his reaction. For a moment, Mark was silent. Processing the information, she could see the hurt in his eyes. The disbelief etched across his features. You've been cheating on me, he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. It was never my intention to hurt you, Mark. I was confused and I made a terrible mistake. I love you, and I don't want to lose what we have. She pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mark stood up, running a hand through his hair. His expression a mix of pain and anger. How could you do this to me, Emily? I trusted you. His voice rose, and she could see the betrayal cutting through him.
I know, and I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you.
I've been struggling with my feelings, and I got caught up in the excitement of seeing Jake again. But it doesn't change how I feel about you, she said, desperation creeping into her voice. Doesn't it? Mark shot back. His hurt evident. You chose him over me. You made that choice. I didn't choose him. She cried, her heart breaking. I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted, and I let my emotions get the best of me. Mark stared at her, his expression unreadable. I need time to process this, he said, finally turning away. I don't know if I can forgive you, as he walked out of the kitchen. Emily felt a profound sense of loss. The realization of what she had done hit her like a tidal wave. She had jeopardized the love of her life for a fleeting moment of passion. The days that followed were filled with silence and regret. Mark moved into the guest room, and the distance between them felt insurmountable. Emily spent her days in a haze, replaying the moment she had chosen to betray her marriage, haunted by the pain she had caused. Jake reached out, but she couldn't bring herself to respond. The thrill of their connection paled in comparison to the reality of her situation. She needed to face the consequences of her actions and rebuild the trust she had shattered. One night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts spiraled. She realized that she didn't just miss Mark. She missed the life they had built together, the laughter, the dreams, and the love that had once filled their home. Felt like a distant memory. After a week of separation, Emily approached Mark with a heavy heart. She knew she had to make amends, to show him that she was committed to rebuilding their relationship. "Mark, can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling as she stood in front of the guest room door. After a long pause, he opened the door, his expression guarded. "What do you want to say? I know I've hurt you deeply and I can't take back what I've done. But I want to try to make things right," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "I love you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back." Mark studied her for a moment, and she could see the conflict in his eyes. "You broke my trust, Emily. It's not something that can just be fixed overnight," he replied, his voice steady but pained. "I understand," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm ready to put in the work. I want to go."